All right. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Why Run Today podcast. We're slowly learning some things about podcasting, recording video. Want to thank our sponsor, Outstate, for hosting us on their beautiful patio along the shores of the Otter Tail River here in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. Today, we are joined by Emily McCune. Emily, I have only talked to you in passing. Introduce yourself.
Yeah,
Tell us
hi.
about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Thank you for having me. Who am I? What do I do? I am a Fergus Falls resident. I've lived here for 13 years. I came from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to be a nanny for my nephew, who's now 16 and almost driving. I fell in love with Fergus Falls, so I decided to stay here, start a business. I've run a few businesses here. I own Sugar High Cannabis Consulting and Dispensary. We've been open 2 years in August. That's how most people know me.
Sure.
Yeah, I've had quite a journey though over the last few years. So, but yeah, that's what I've got going on right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're primarily a running podcast. The reason I've seen we've been friends on Facebook for a long time, and I saw you made a significant transformation in the last 6 months, year.
It's been about a year, but a lot more so over the last 3 months.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, yeah.
So talk about what you're doing fitness-wise first, and some of that, and then we can dive into some of the other things.
Yeah,
but
I would love to.
What was the start of the transformation?
Sure,
it's been about a year.
I will try to do the Cliff's Notes version, I suppose. As a matter of fact, to the day, today, 1 year ago, a lot of people don't know this. They're going to soon. I've got some essays and press coming out soon here about the topic and issue. It's been 1 year today since I've used cannabis.
So July 3rd.
July 3rd,
we're
2023.
recording this July 3rd, 4th of July tomorrow. Okay, yep. So 1 year to the day.
The short end of it is that I had been feeling sick for a couple months. Early spring, early summer last year. I couldn't pinpoint what was causing it. I've been a medical marijuana patient since 2018.
Okay.
And that's what got my journey started in cannabis, of course. I have a degree in cannabis medicine and healthcare, physiology. I obtained that in early 22 before we opened our dispensary. And I had heard of a condition that's pretty novel called cannabis hyperemesis syndrome that chronic users, mostly medical patients, had been developing. It's a novel, newer syndrome with not a lot of data available or medical research done. So because I am I like to be an expert in my craft and profession, I wanted to study everything I could about it in case people came to me with questions or issues. I've been smoking marijuana my whole life, and now all of a sudden it's making me sick and I'm having these adverse reactions, so I joined social media groups, I joined newsletters, I attended online Zoom webinars through universities across the country in legal cannabis states. This was all leading into this prior to me starting to feel symptoms. Okay, so, long story short, I developed this condition. It is an adverse, and it presents itself with undesirable side effects of cannabis use. Okay, it's not known why some people develop it and why some don't yet. Hopefully one day we'll have those answers. It's believed to be because of the higher concentrations of THC in the products on the market.
Okay.
And we are flooding our endocannabinoid systems with too much, and that in turn is causing an adverse reaction. So it presents itself with exacerbated anxiety, crippling nausea, vomiting. Okay. So the short end of it turned on me. So I had to figure out a new medication.
Sure.
Okay. My qualifying condition and diagnosis for marijuana is PTSD. So it's a lot of anxiety, depression, sleep issues. I also have OCD. So it was a really rough go for a while. Getting into the running, I've been a runner before, off and on throughout life. But right when I got sober in 2019, I started hitting the gym. Lost a bunch of weight, felt good. Mostly I was a walker back then. But it was never running in the way in the relationship that I have now. So I got sick. I got diagnosed. I was overweight. I didn't feel good. I just needed to do something. I needed to do something other than pharmaceuticals. I already had gone that route before, of the benzodiazepines. You know, I'm an addict in recovery. I have over 5 years clean. I'm very mindful of those things. And although I did have to temporarily get on an anti-anxiety again so I could get through the day, that's how uncomfortable it was.
Sure.
That was temporary. So I just started hitting the gym in the way that I had before, the treadmill mostly.
Okay.
Treadmill, lifting weights here and there, just, incline hiking on a treadmill and things like that. But when it really, really shifted for me, so that journey began in August of last year. And I dropped weight really quickly. To the day, I've lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
But I've gained some of that back in muscle now.
Sure.
Happy to report. So really when I developed what I would say is my newfound relationship with running and how I feel irate to call myself a runner really began in March of this year when I hit 5 years clean and I went to Spain.
That's awesome.
To celebrate. I go on a trip every year by myself somewhere I've never been around the world to celebrate my recovery. And this year was Spain, and I stayed in the Costa Brava region, which is very hilly.
Okay.
And I'm not really one to, plan accommodations based on if there's a gym or a fitness. I don't stay in hotels. I stay in Airbnbs like that. And so I was on such a good trajectory with my fitness that I didn't want to lose the momentum. So I brought my running shoes and I decided I was going to run on pavement. I had never done that before.
Oh, wow.
I've run races for fun, never for competition.
Yeah.
I think most people know that my former brother-in-law is Jake Crone. He times races. He's a runner, so I've been exposed to that in the past. And that is when I started pavement running, and I'm a complete convert now. I will only treadmill run if it's raining.
Sure.
So that just really was the catalyst for a completely new discovery and a new relationship with running and what it means for me and why I run. It's about so much more than, it's not weight loss anymore.
Yeah.
It's mental health maintenance.
Okay. That is a significant reason for a lot of people who run, is the mental health. Is there something that stands out to you about running that makes it such a mental health positive?
There is, this is just such a complex and amazing experience that I get to live right now. That I'm really enjoying relishing and savoring every moment of that experience because it's been so profound. Like I mentioned, I have a background in cannabis physiology with our endocannabinoid system, which of course relays and spans across all physiology and neural pathways. Okay. So when I felt my first runner's high, I had never felt that before this year. Like I said, I've run before, but I'm talking jogging here, 5 minutes, walking, and kind of that sort of vibe. Not running for 10 miles without stopping like I do now.
Yeah.
And for me, that I'll never forget the run. The first run I went on after I came home from Spain, and it was a 4.1 mile run around town. It was in April. And the way that I felt when I was done with that, it was a very noticeable transition in my chest, in my brain, in my feeling of elation. And I felt high. Okay. I felt high like I would from THC, okay, from cannabis. And I was completely mesmerized by this, and I went on a lot of deep dives about this, even more so than I already had in the past. And so I started kind of obsessing, right, over our body's ability to produce endogenous cannabinoids, mostly anandamide, which is referred to as the bliss molecule. And when I made that connection between the fact that when we put in that from a plant, from cannabis, for instance, we're attempting to error correct an under or overproduction in our body. Okay. It's just like with pharmaceuticals, with an SSRI, right? For depression, for example. And when I discovered that the reason I was feeling so blissful was because the endorphins produced from the physical exercise component were flooding my system with anandamide. You don't need cannabis, is what I'm getting at. You don't need cannabis to produce anandamide or to feel that. Okay. And I became very obsessed with that. And it's just been propelling me ever since. And to be clear, with the idea and reality that we don't need external substances to produce those things. We can, our bodies are machines and they're miracles. And I love I've always been a very competitive person. Okay. I like the challenge of achieving that myself. So that's kind of like what my whole vibe is right now in life is I would like to educate people on this. I would like to help other addicts in recovery to discover these things, to teach and illustrate. You know, I mean, look, I don't want to go all over the place here, but I am very pro cannabis. Make no mistake. I love what I do and I love helping people, and cannabis absolutely saved me. Sure. And has been responsible for everything that I am right now. You know, nothing's changing there. I'm just, you know, with my own personality. Now I'm just obsessed with the idea of creating that on my own, you know?
So talk about being in the cannabis industry and not being a user anymore. Yeah. How does that affect you? How does it affect your business? How does it affect your response?
Well,
there's a lot of questions there.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and it's easy to answer. At first, it was very hard for me to accept this diagnosis. I had a lot of feelings. I had thoughts like this can't be happening to me. This doesn't happen to me. This is what other people are suffering from. I don't consume enough cannabis for this to happen to me. I don't even smoke weed. I didn't smoke marijuana when I was a consumer. I ate edibles and I vaped, which is a cleaner way to inhale, right? It was a months-long process and path to acceptance. And through, you know, the things that I was thinking were things like, well, how can I be peddling these products and I'm not even using them? What are people going to think? This is embarrassing. This is horrifying. This can't be happening to me. I'll feel like a fraud. You know, I always, you know, there are people in this industry that are that way. They just want to attempt to make a quick buck. You know, they want to become millionaires overnight. And we're seeing that a lot more since legalization. Okay. Sure. I got into this industry to help people because I had a story to share and I like connecting with people emotionally. And it turns out I really like that in a business sense. That's how I feel I've become successful, because I'm authentic and genuine. So I was worried. I was worried about coming, you know, people learning this about me. I still haven't talked about it to a lot of people, partially because I'm trying to embrace the concept of not everybody needs to know everything about Emily McCune. Okay.
Sure. That's
not my normal MO. My MO is to put it all out there. So I've just been it's been my own challenge and struggle that I've been working through. I've started to become more open about it. And like I said, there's going to be some press coming. There's an article, an essay I wrote that'll be in the next Lake Country Living issue later this month. And I just think it's important to share that story. So I've, you know, through conversation with others, people in the industry, friends, family, you know, I had dinner with a friend one night and he said something kind of profound. He said, well, Emily, it doesn't matter if you're not using the substance anymore. Think of all the people in the craft beer industry, for example. There's a lot of people that don't drink. You don't have to, and you already have been this whole time. People trust you. He's like, are you worried that people won't trust you? And I'm like, yeah.
That's exactly what I'm worried about.
That's exactly what I'm worried about. So I've just, you know, over time and with the newfound confidence and growth that honestly running and fitness has given me. This is the crux of everything right now. The impetus.
Sure.
That's how I feel. Yeah. So it was a rough go. Mostly I just kept quiet and kind of stayed tunnel vision, did my own thing. When I'm approached with cannabis consultation clients and with questions in service foods, you know, this and that, I share with people now. openly. It's not that I was ever hiding it or in denial. It was just trying to learn how to navigate that. It's challenging, to navigate those waters. Yeah. Now I'm just completely forthright, And the thing is just because I miss cannabis sometimes. I do, I not as much as I used to. It gets easier every day, and I'll share that with people. Just because I can't consume the product anymore does not mean that I don't still have the education and the experience, a lifetime of using cannabis. Yep. As a medical patient, 5 years. So
talk about for your PTSD and anxiety, has running and fitness has replaced all drugs you were using for that. So do you feel more confidence from that versus having used cannabis? You said cannabis saved your life, so you needed those steps probably, and a lot of people probably do.
Yeah, I agree.
Can you talk a little bit about how that replacement what were maybe some of the stages or feelings you went through on that?
So right away last year when I was diagnosed with CHS, I absolutely had to take a clonazepam. Was my benzodiazepine, anti-anxiety. My anxiety from my PTSD expresses itself very prominently with the gut and brain connection. So it's not just feeling, I'm a little bit anxious right now. It's, where's the bathroom? It's debilitating for me. Sure. So I love my relationship with my primary caregiver. She was also my referring practitioner for medical marijuana. She is the one that diagnosed my PTSD back in 2017. So we have a very good, close, intimate relationship. She knows about my addiction and my recovery. She knows that I don't like the idea of being on a benzo, but I was desperate. Just to get through the day, because it was that I could barely function. So I did get put on those, temporarily as needed again. And so I'd say I took that medication daily for about 2 or 3 months. So all of fall, most of fall last year. Until I kind of started hitting longer runs. Okay. That's when I noticed the shift. And again, this is prior to me discovering outdoor pavement running. So I was on the treadmill and I would advance to, going about 5 miles with an hour, on the treadmill, and then to 6 miles in an hour. And the way that I felt once my body had completely detoxified all of the cannabinoids that were stored in my fat cells, because that's another interesting complex thing. When you are a daily cannabis consumer, the THC is stored in our body in our fat cells. So if you cessate use, you're going to continue detoxifying for about 90 days. Okay. Every time I sweat, I had a panic attack and anxiety all over again. Okay. It was a rough go, Ryan, for about 5 months there, even after cessating use and transitioning into the new normal. So after I had completely eliminated, and I could feel it, once I started working out and sweating and not feeling like I was going to puke. Yep. Not from a workout. Okay. Not that. Yeah. I don't push myself that hard. I knew that I was kind of in that clean and straight and narrow, cleaned out, ready to kind of, start crushing it, push myself a little bit even more. And I noticed it at first in the way that I felt when I was done with my workout, which I think everyone who runs can agree. When it's that elation, that high, that feeling of the word that always comes to mind is the feeling of being invincible. Like nothing could matter right now, nothing bad. Yeah. Because I feel so good right now. And the sleep, I just suddenly stopped having issues. I didn't feel like I needed something to take at night just to help fall asleep. I was tired. My body was tired. My mind was tired from all of these feelings and sensations that were going on inside of me. And honest to goodness, I've become addicted. I'm an addict,
To running.
And yeah, to the production of those chemicals in my body, because it's just, it makes me feel so happy. And I know addiction, this is a playful use of that word and term.
Sure.
It's, if I go too long without a run, I will feel a little bit uncomfortable mentally, only because I want to feel that I want to feel
Sure.
good. I feel invincible,
So as you get into better and better shape, to get that feeling, the runner's high doesn't happen every time, right? So
yeah.
we need to work out harder or run farther, or sometimes it just comes after a 2-mile run and you never know why.
I know.
Right?
I like the unknown. I embrace the unknown. I find that very whimsical. Yeah.
You feel like you're going to have to chase that, though? Is that your new addiction?
And I already
you're
am.
Chase? Okay.
Well, here's the path. My first pavement run was in mid-March, okay, in Girona, Spain, while I was running through the streets of where they filmed season 6 of Game of Thrones, which was just a really fun, random thing. Really historical, narrow cobblestone paths, hills, everything, ultimately leading to the coast in a community called Roses, where I stayed for a few nights. Brutal. But the way that my calves and glutes felt after those runs, I knew I was onto something. So returning from that trip at the end of March, I knew from the way that I felt from that, here's the thing, Ryan, the running was my favorite part of that vacation to Spain.
Wow.
100%. I like to travel for the food and culture and to be immersed in diverse populations, which you don't really get that much here, you know what I mean? I like that part of traveling, but the running was my favorite part of that vacation. Okay. And, when I came home, I knew that I wanted to sign up for some races. I've run a lot of 5Ks before. I had run one 10K before. It was the Turkey Trot back in, I think, 2015. Okay. And I had been treadmill running, and that was a pathetic, it was a good experience.
Sure.
It was good. It was cold,
Yeah.
And so I signed up I just Googled 5Ks and 10Ks near me. And I was put onto a few. So I ran a random 5K in Fargo at the end of April. I ran a 10K in May in Breckenridge as part of the Prairie, what is it called? It's like a traveling marathon runners group that you can just tag on in the random spots they make. So I did a 10K in Breckenridge at the end of, in mid-May. Okay. And that was a really prominent shift in my running relationship as well, because that was the first time I had ever run 6 miles without stopping once to kind of catch my breath.
Sure.
I am much more about endurance than I am pace.
Yep.
Although we'll get to that because I'm working on that now, because you got to chase that high. And so that was that was when I felt, and I had signed up for the 10-mile Lake Region Run. My buddy Caroline Gustafson, who has given me free fitness training advice and planning throughout the last few months out of the kindness of her heart, put together a plan for me to get ready for the Lake Region 10-mile run, which was the craziest thing that I had ever done, or I knew it was going to be. For sure. I was giving myself so much grace, Ryan, about that race. I was really amped. I felt ready. I told myself leading into that race, it's okay. You're going to have to walk. This is 10 freaking miles.
Yep.
You're not going to run it all without stopping. Then that's fine. I had goals, some that I voiced and some that I kept to myself. And now that the race is done, I can share what they were.
Sure.
I really wanted to do that race in under 2 hours. I really didn't want to come in last, which I thought was likely since there were only 48 runners on the 10-mile. And I'm sorry, but anyone who's signing up for a 10-mile run is a runner, okay? Usually. Yeah,
not too many walkers planning on a 10-mile race.
Yeah. And so that race on June 1st, just shy of a month, a little over a month ago, completely just changed my life. I have never... I'll tell you what I had never done until that race. I had never cried from a run until that race. Okay. At about mile 5 or 6 is when I started becoming really overwhelmed with emotions. And it was the runner's high was kicking in, the wall, breaking through the wall. At a certain point on a long run, you know what I mean? You just feel like you can go forever. And I love that. That's what I chase now. I'm a long runner now. So, I had to keep it together. I felt so good and capable and confident. That what I love about running is the confidence it gives me. hit mile 8, hydration station. And I was like, oh my God, I have run 8 miles without stopping. I hadn't stopped yet.
That's awesome.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm at a point now in my running relationship where 2 miles is nothing, which is like wild to me because just 6 months prior, that was insane. Okay. The speed at which I'm progressing here is very impressive to me. I'm not impressed with myself. I'm just surprised at the capability of the human body when you're determined. So, I ended up crushing that race. I never stopped once. Not
That's
once.
Awesome.
I when I saw the flags at the finish line, I knew that I was going to erupt with tears of satisfaction and happiness and joy and just everything. And I did, when I crossed that finish line and I saw on the time, 1 hour and 47 minutes. I could not believe that. I could not believe that. And so I ran through the finish line and kept going straight to the library where my sister was working because I knew she was working and I didn't want anyone to see me cry. So I just kept running the finish line straight across the street to the library and just collapsed into her arms. And she was so scared, wondering if I was okay or thinking I got hurt, Everything changed after that. Now, suddenly, a 4-mile run isn't good enough.
Sure.
A 5 mile, that's an easy day for me now.
Yep.
When I go for runs now, I like to hit that 7 to 8 mile is like a standard.
Sure.
I did sign up for my first half marathon.
Awesome.
It's in November.
In
Hawaii.
Hawaii, that's a good spot to, if you're going to run why not go to Hawaii and run?
I know.
13 miles?
I knew it had to be outside of Minnesota because that's a little too chilly for me.
Sure.
And I like I like whimsical, fantastical things. And when I do things, I full send with no looking back.
Yeah, I can tell.
Can't take it with you. I don't care. Plane tickets were very affordable for Hawaii and I just pulled the trigger on it. I'm like, I'm doing this. The Big Island, Kona, Hawaii, half marathon, November 9th.
Awesome.
So I've gotten into the mindset kind of training for that now.
I like it. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to watch and follow along on your training.
Yeah, I do. And I do like to post about this journey because despite all the changes and on the landscape of my career, my profession, my personal life, I want to help people. And I don't ever share my story or quote unquote put it all out there because I want accolades or praise or even need encouragement or anybody to gas me up. That's not why I do that. I do it because you just never know who needs to feel connected. And I've been doing that my whole life, but certainly since I got clean. I mean, that was my whole life. That's the beginning of this, square one. And people need to connect with people. Ironically, why I run is because I need that alone time. I am not a social runner, okay? But as far as sharing the journey, you never know who needs to hear or see things or who you can inspire. I'm inspired by people. I have the people that I look up to on social media. You know what? My favorite runner on social media, I'm going to tell you, her I don't even know her name. Her page is The Realistic Runner. She's a, 20-something gal who is a huge advocate of the fact that anybody can run. You don't have to have a certain physique. You don't have to have a certain kind of body. Feel comfortable in your skin to wear a sports bra with no shirt if it's hot. She wears the Garmin watch. She tracks her pace. She checks in, she does long runs. Sometimes her mile pace is 10 minutes, sometimes it's 15. She does half marathons, she does full marathons. I love that, and she's just so motivating and inspiring. And so I like sharing these things with people because I've been motivated by other people's stories. And wow, do we need to connect with human beings more than ever now?
Yep.
Not only with technology and social media affecting our real relationships with humans and connection, but COVID. I mean, we're still in the cleanup aftermath of that.
Yep.
So I really enjoy sharing these things.
I lost track of my main question I wanted to ask. I'm going to ask another one.
Fault.
No, it's fine. Gosh, I wish I could think of exactly the one. I'm going to take a different route, and then I'll
Yes.
come back
Yep.
to it, because I do want to ask, and this is much deeper than the other question I was going to ask, so I'll think of it. I'm sure you'll have a long,
Great.
a
You're
thorough
probably
answer. And I
right.
think this
You're
is probably
right.
the most important thing. You've talked about your addiction and recovery from addiction. What would you say to someone who's suffering from addiction right now? What are your recommendations? I mean, you are certified cannabis consultant, those things, and you no longer use any run. And if somebody's out there suffering from addiction now, what's your advice to them? What should they look for? Like, they're done with this. How do I get done with this? And I know from I only use tobacco, but carrying tobacco
That was the
addiction
hardest
is
addiction
hard.
I've ever quit, Ryan.
tobacco,
Quitting
so
cigarettes.
perfect. Yeah.
Quitting, which has been almost 2 years now.
So-
only. So, yeah.
It's you have to want to quit, right?
Absolutely.
But once you want to quit, what's your advice?
Yeah,
How do you get there? What do you do?
Right. There are obviously, recovery and healing is not linear, for everybody. You hit the nail on the head right out of the gate with you have to want it. All I know is what my path was. Some people are thrust into recovery by being court ordered. You never know. I'm very active in my NA, Narcotics Anonymous community. I go to meetings regularly still, and so I am very exposed to the addict, still struggling and suffering. Early recovery, long-term recovery, all of it, which I need to be exposed to that. For me, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, so I sought out treatment, I had friends that I knew were in recovery that I reached out to ask about that. It was a combination of going to the county, doing evaluations, finding a placement for me with outpatient treatment, and that was it for me. Because again, I'm a very determined, tunnel-visioned gal, and when I want something, I'm getting that thing, okay? This time I wanted my family back,
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel like a piece of crap anymore. So to the addict who's struggling right now, it's like, which route are we taking here? Are we taking the route of what I want to shove down their throats about, bro, get physically fit. Then you'll have nothing to worry about. Then you will stay the course. I have been thinking a lot about that. But it depends on what angle we're taking here. There are so many. What I think, actually, the angle I'm going to take right now, and this is something I've discovered a lot this year with my running journey and how it is connected to my recovery. I think that the biggest problem with addicts who are in active addiction is that they lack confidence. Okay? This is something that has become very monumental and profound in my world recently. And here's why. I really strongly feel that if you are a confident individual, you won't want to abuse drugs. Okay? Some people are born addicts. Okay? Some people are made addicts from life circumstances causing them to turn to a substance, and that substance is highly addictive. Again, with addiction and recovery not being linear, for example, I abuse the hell out of alcohol. I've never identified as an alcoholic. It was never about the alcohol. I don't demonize alcohol. It wasn't about that. It was about me. Okay? We need to get right. And if you can get right and have, hopefully, a motivator, for me, it was, bless their hearts, my family have wanted nothing to do with me when I was at my worst. I don't blame them. They were confident,
Sure.
It helps to have a motivator. I think that people need to get more, I think people need to strive for confidence. One way to do that is fitness. It's the physiological reaction to pushing your body. And with that, whether it's, as a woman, men and women, we're different creatures, there's a lot of comparing in life, For me, it's never been about comparing. I frankly don't think I care enough about other people to compare myself. I just healthily am selfish like that, healthily. I worry about me. But it's, I think this goes for men too, you know. I'm not trying to leave men to the wayside here. We all want to feel comfortable in our bodies, you know. Media, society aside, we want to feel comfortable. We want to feel good, you know. And as a wonderful byproduct of fitness and running is the physique and the body and, you know, the toning and the
Sure.
staying in shape. And, you know, now, of course, I'm doing a lot. I'm on a totally extra path I'm strength training too. I have a lot of goals with that.
Yeah.
So I took up rowing, you know, that's completely revolutionized my workout too. Running has become just almost daily. Sometimes after the long 8 or 9 mile runs, I do take a rest day every now and again, you know, but not that often.
Sure.
So anyhow, confidence. I honestly, I would love to help with that. I would like to facilitate that. You know, I have a lot going on in my personal and professional life and lots of transition upcoming here, but I've been thinking a lot about starting maybe some sort of, you know, running club for those in recovery. Maybe trying to facilitate or put together a 5K, you know, like a recovery run,
Yep.
you know, something to raise some money for, you know, to donate to a, you know, I mean, these are the, I'm a constant creative,
Yes.
you know? So yeah, I think that I do. And there are others in the recovery community here that are also hardcore, hard body savages and need that to stay clean.
Yeah.
I do this because I don't, well, I've gone over already a lot about why I do this, but, I really just needed, cannabis worked for me for a really long time. It helped me stay clean. It helped with depression, anxiety, sleep. And yeah, you know, when you eliminate your medication, you have to find something else when you're sick, you know?
Yeah.
I think we all suffer a little bit. You know, cannabis isn't for everybody. And for, you know, like I said already, now I'm just like really into the idea and almost obsessively, shocker, with, I don't need any outside influence here. I'm doing it all internally because I'm competitive like that, you know, and that builds confidence when you set goals, micro goals and macro. I'm a micro goal kind of gal.
Yeah.
What happens when you reach a goal? You can't get that from anything else. You're not goal setting. Yeah. It's just the confidence is key. And yeah, I think that people struggling with addiction, that's what I've really discovered, in my opinion, an outlook to be the missing piece in a lot of these individuals. And I'm exposed a lot, like I said, in the community. If you could just gain a little confidence in yourself, you can't just start, or I mean, you have to take baby steps.
Yeah. Talk about the micro and macro goals. What do you set? I assume you use those in all your life.
Oh yeah,
I mean, business
absolutely.
and personal.
Absolutely, I do.
So
with the fitness, it's things. You know, in the beginning, it was weight loss goals. You know, I was carrying around a lot of extra weight, and that makes running harder and workouts harder. One of my favorite things about weight loss has been how easier my workouts and running has become. You know, if I hadn't, I don't think I would be able to push through an 8 miler, you know. I started this journey at 186 pounds, and the last weigh-in, I was 135.
Awesome.
So I fluctuate.
Sure.
Actually, that wasn't the last weigh-in. I was 142. I'm going to attribute that to muscle gain because
Absolutely.
hashtag gains is my vibe right now. Yeah, you know, things like I want to weigh in the, you know, during this, you know, starting, you know, like I remember when I hit the 140s, for example, in the weight, it was a weight loss goal. That was a motivator for me. So micro goals being, you know, a few pounds here and there, or a range, right? And then when I reach that goal, it's like the feeling of elation that came over me is like, well, now I can do anything. I can do anything, you know? Talked about the goals I had for the 10-mile run. You know, again, like I think it's important for me. It's important to be realistic. Okay, I'm not as insane, Ryan, as some of these other runners up around here are. You know, I know these runners; they're insane. You know, the Jackie Wilsons. I think that's her last name. They're running 25 miles for fun and with a 9-minute pace, 9-minute mile. You know. Nothing's off limits to me. Okay.
Yeah.
an example of a macro goal would have been earlier this year when I thought to myself, well, really it wasn't until after the Lake Region run. It was the realization that if I can run 10 miles without stopping to catch my breath or walk it off, I for sure can run 13.1, even if I have to walk. Yeah. So macro goal, run a freaking half marathon and say that I did it, right? To myself, okay? Micro goal within that run, do it in under 3 hours, easy on myself, kind on myself, with a lot of wiggle room so that if I exceed, it just makes me feel even better about myself. I think we need to give ourselves grace. And, but I mean, here's the thing. If you would have told me look, it's only been 2.5 months since my first pavement run. That's it. Yeah. April, May, June, 3.5. I've come a long way. I never would have thought when I was running in the hills of Barcelona that I would be running a half marathon the same calendar year. So goal setting is paramount for me. And I think it is for everybody.
Absolutely. Let's talk cannabis a little bit. Yeah. Across the nation, it's becoming legalized more and more. Through the press, it's marketed as for anyone, for the same as drinking alcohol, which I mean, thank you, Outstate, for sponsoring us, but there's certainly negatives to alcohol too. But recreational use versus medical use versus, currently it seems that society says, go ahead, it's cool, right? As somebody in the industry, as a past user, as someone who doesn't now, what's your take?
Well, to start, I can tell you that I take a very strong stance on the belief that there is no such thing as recreational versus medical use with cannabis. Okay. If you use cannabis and you feel better from it, that's medicinal use. Okay? That is the stance that I take. That is the stance that my business, Sugar High, takes. We are all encompassing and welcoming and encouraging and culture vibe. We don't judge. We don't discriminate. Some people we help are 89 years old and looking for help not being dizzy. Okay. So we're not going to go on a tangent here, but education is critical. Well, what's the product that would be best for them? Right. So being educated and understanding the endocannabinoid system is monumentally important in this narrative, okay, and in this industry, in this landscape. So medical, recreational, not a thing. Legal terminology, sure. When states go legal, it's adult use. It's regulating like alcohol is regulated, okay? It's a very, 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 very difficult industry to navigate through for a lot of reasons. I think that there's a lot of ignorance and there's a lot of incompetence and there's a lot of oversight and government overreach on a substance that it's because this is so new. It's like we're going through prohibition all over again. Some people are demonizing, sure, the reefer madness folk. I mean, how archaic is that? We're talking 1930s. Straight up racism, bigotry fueled, by the way. It exists. Why they associate that with a plant, I will never know. The reality, to kind of shift gear there, the reality is that there are, what's a drug? Okay. I would never deny that the medicine I was consuming was psychoactive. Of course it was psychoactive. That's what made me feel better.
Sure.
I'm not ashamed of that.
Yeah.
People drink alcohol to take the edge off, for anxiety. It's really no different. Okay. Different in that there are different effects, side effects. There are different, those different substances affect our bodies differently. We are not going into this deep dive, but as far as substances go, I am of the belief that no one should be able to tell us what we can and can't put into our body. The idea and concept of an elected governing body telling me but I can or can't use marijuana is completely baffling and bewildering to me. So welcome to my nightmare. I really don't like doing the compare contrast alcohol to cannabis thing, although local politics as of late have sort of made me because of the hypocrisy, and that's been really challenging too. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I don't even remember what your original question was.
Well, I guess what to me, I don't want to get too far into my personal feelings, but I think that, well, both alcohol, any substances are pushed too much, and I think especially the kids see it in younger and younger use, and I see that. I mean, we drink in high school, right? Everyone drinks, and everyone drinks in high school.
I did
right?
most of my drinking in high school.
Yeah, those things, but that society has made, especially marijuana use, very popular lately, and from my personal side, I don't think that's great, but I think that I definitely see benefits.
Let me give you my
cannabis.
Let me give you my response to that before I lose my thought. I agree. Okay. As somebody I'm an entrepreneur. I love being a business owner. I love knowing my strengths and my skill sets. Some of those strengths are branding, advertising, marketing. Okay. It is disgusting to me the way the way some individuals in this industry have responded with that angle. Okay. Any state that has good regulation with cannabis is going to have regulations in place, and this includes Minnesota, that work to limit and prevent things like marketing to children, these concerns that you bring up, And so at that point, there's not really much else anyone can do about that, because then where are we going with that? There's already rules in place and regulations. It's like with alcohol, the liquor stores. Well, you can have, or tobacco. You put the warnings out, the Surgeon General warning, you do the things. We're individuals. We have bodily autonomy. We're going to do what we want to do to our body. And there's no one that can or should regulate that, in my opinion. Studies, research, education, important. And then it's up to the individual, okay? There are also other facts that work into this conversation. And some of those facts are no compound in the cannabis plant is addictive physiologically. Some compounds are addictive. Nicotine, sugar, alcohol, cocaine. Caffeine. Hi, I'm an addict. My name's Emily. So there are a lot of... it's really complex. It's very complex. My personal stance is that I can't stand that. I can't stand what you're talking. I agree with your outlook on that. We don't need to be the people that are looking to capitalize, especially on the money part of it, just drives me up the walls. Yeah. Just let us be. Why don't you give us the freedom, okay? So we don't have to worry about going to jail. Let's not worry about going to jail for using marijuana. It doesn't matter what your opinion or belief is on how it got here, whether it was a God-given plant, that makes no difference. It's an interesting thing to talk about, but it makes no difference ultimately. It's here. People can glean benefit from it. It's much safer. These are facts. Much safer than a lot of other substances that by human nature you want to run to. Okay? I like caffeine. I like endorphins. It's just I produce them myself, So it is a very complex conversation to have. There are a lot of layers to it. That's my personal stance. That's one of the reasons why I am just so miserably stressed out. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I need running to combat that. I don't know where I would be without my fitness right now. Yeah. I don't even want to think about it.
I don't want to stress you out, and I don't want to stay too local in the answer to this question because I'm okay. I'm great talking. I'm going to bring up the local side of things, sure. Only in how it applies to a broader. I know that there's a lot of concern from people about cannabis being in town, downtown, visible business in cannabis. I will say, like, we visit Bozeman a lot. There's the last Airbnb I was at, every time we drove into the Airbnb, we had to drive by a place that it smelled like marijuana going by, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of that, not being a user.
Yeah.
But what's your viewpoint on that? You do see in like a town like Bozeman, dispensaries everywhere, right? There is the economic impact of that, but there can be the negative sides too. There can be a visibility side of, not everyone's a backer, right?
Yeah.
So how do you respond? I don't want to be too local because this podcast goes everywhere.
Sure.
But it has been brought up by our city council that maybe there is a push to move these businesses out of the downtown core just for that appearance sake is kind of what I get listening to the city council meetings. I don't want to put words in our city councilors' mouths, but that's kind of the way.
Well, and I can respond, and again, I will not I'll try not to keep it too localized, because frankly, I'm just spent from that.
Sure.
I will share that I don't find it wildly unreasonable to harbor the outlook of, well, just because it's legal and people are allowed to buy it, I don't want people to see it in our town. I don't agree with that, but I don't find that wildly unreasonable. It's new. It's scary. Not everybody has the outlook that I do or the collective does, because more people are in favor of cannabis than aren't in every capacity, local, state, national. More people are consuming, more people want access legally.
Sure.
That's just data and statistics. So I don't think it's unreasonable. I really, at this point, honestly, Ryan, I have fought the fight and tried to challenge ignorance and incompetence so much over the last 4 years that I don't have any more fight left in me at this point. That's not like a threat. That's not a scary thing. It's a sharing of an emotion and a feeling almost of relief that I feel anymore. I've been fighting the fight of trying to get people, not just locally, to accept and nurture responsible use of this substance while we navigate these uncharted waters of regulation. Okay. That I just don't care anymore what people think.
Sure.
I have my outlook as a business owner. I have data. I have feedback from other downtown business owners and from customers. And by feedback, I mean support. Overwhelming support and encouragement to just keep holding on and keep fighting the fight. And we will. Okay. But at this point, it's in God's hands. Okay. We are faced with potentially being rezoned in Fergus Falls, as you know. Ultimately, if that happens, it's not the end of the world. I just don't really see the point, because at the end of the day, this issue can come down to this. It's not about your opinion. It's not about visibility. It's not, in a way it is, but not for what I'm about to say. With our issue, locally, and we will take it locally because politics starts somewhere, okay?
Yep.
It's the bottom line is that in structured government, there's a democracy, okay? There's etiquette, there's protocol, okay? There is the way things are done, whether we like it or not, okay? And yes, I have spouted off this to the city council with no shame, because we're all just people. None of you are better than. Okay. I don't like politics. There's no denying that. The role of a city councilor is to act on behalf of the constituents of their wards who elected them. We have city councilors right now who are flagrantly, confidently espousing their personal opinion on this issue to form their political decisions and votes. I have a problem with that. That's what I mean when I say it's not about visibility. It's not about access. It's not about it. We're going to take it down further than that. It's about basic infrastructure politically. I have a problem with that. So that said, I'm just at a point where it's like, I'm not going to fight that. It's bringing out the worst in me. It's making me have to run further, which is fine. But, I think that Minnesota could stand to take a look at other states. The way that legalization is rolling out in Minnesota is not great. Some of the more conservative Republican politicians, locally and regionally and statewide, I will admit, who initially I've always leaned liberal Democrat, some of their shared concerns about the way we were rolling out legalization being too fast and too kind of just like putting the cart before the horse they were not wrong, as it turns out. There's a lot of inequity going on. There's a lot of, I'm a retailer. We are planning and hoping to become a licensed marijuana retailer. No cannabis business in Minnesota right now is intending to stay hemp only. Or if they are, maybe, possibly one or two. Okay. Sure. Most people want to integrate into the retail marijuana world so we can offer more products and, turn bigger profit. That's the goal of a business, is to make money, to survive, and to live your life, right? I want that too. Mostly I want to be able to provide the products for the people because, wow, it's hard to stay in business right now in this industry. If we didn't have the marijuana market on the horizon, our business would not be sustainable.
Sure.
No one wants to see that, No one wants to see that. Or rather, more people don't want to see that than don't want to see that. So politics of it all. Wow. It's, I'm really eager for that part of this journey to be done. I'm really eager for that. It's really hard for a lot of people. A lot of people harbor my same outlook right now who are in the industry. We've been open almost 2 years, long before legalization was even a conversation. We just wanted to help people. I don't appreciate these outlooks and opinions of our city councilors affecting where we're located. I understand that it's scary for people, but one day it won't be. Are the liquor stores scary when they're downtown? They're not. That's just the reality. No one's scared of the municipal liquor store downtown. Right. If you're triggered by that, then you've got bigger problems. Okay.
Sure.
And maybe you should redirect. I think people could stand to redirect their outlook. It's not about, in my opinion, it's not about the location. It's, if you feel uncomfortable or triggered by a dispensary or a pot leaf being on a window downtown, then I think that you should take a deeper look into what's going on in your own life. And I say that in jest, but also very truthful, truly.
Maybe go for a run and think about it.
Get right. Get right with yourself. This is, whether you like it or not, this is a now legal and regulated, hopefully safely regulated. The harder the legislators make this and the more pushback there is, the bigger and longer the delay to have a safely regulated market, which is what's so laughable to me. What I don't think these legislators and politicians and even citizens are realizing is that in Minnesota and all the way down to city, we're looking to safely control this substance because whether you like it or not, it's legalized now. So the more challenging you make it for businesses like mine to integrate into this economy and industry, the more likely you are to push people like us into the loving arms of the black market.
Sure.
Okay. This is the stuff that I wish our chief of police understood, who, for all intents and purposes, has been very evenly keeled and supportive. Okay. And reasonable, not everybody in politics has been, or with the city. So I just think that you talk to obviously I have conversations all the time with others in the industry, regularly, daily in some capacity. This is not just localized. This is statewide. And it's been like this in other states before us, that came before us. This is not rocket science. This is not new. This is just our turn. But I do wish that legislators would realize, you're going to make it hard for us. We're probably going to go right back into the black market where we don't have to deal with this crap.
Yeah.
I mean, not me, but it's happening. Right. You know what I mean? I want nothing more than to integrate my business into a legal, safely regulated, lucrative business in our community with an impact on other local business. You know, that's a conversation too. You know, this industry will bring in people to town.
Yep.
Our 420 festival that we orchestrated, Lakes Area Grow Co., my buddy JP, he's the owner. We've been friends in life and business for a couple years now. We orchestrated and organized the community's first 420. 420, of course, being April 20th. It's just kind of the annual day of celebration for cannabis culture, rooted in the 70s, you know, California culture. And that event saw over 1,000 people. We had local vendors have their best sales days of all time. Outstate Brewing came and set up their beer trailer. It was their second biggest grossing beer trailer event in the history of their existence. You know, this is an industry that brings people. You should have seen the town that day. It was just buzzing with traffic. Buzzing. I don't even remember. And I wasn't even using cannabis. And that's just how crazy it was. And it was just, I mean, it went by in a flash. It was just like, I can't believe, like, the food trucks sold out. Penny cakes sold out by 5:30, an hour and a half into the event. People, and this was all, of course, without even selling cannabis products, because we have a city ordinance that prohibits that. We can only sell in the licensed establishment. In other cities around the state, that's not true. Like, we've done events where we bring our because we're in manufacturing as well. You know, we manufacture cannabis out of hemp edibles in a commercial kitchen here. So in other cities, we're able to bring those and sell them and sample them out and everything. So that's the kind of thing that I wish our legislators and politicians and council would look at reasonably and leave their opinions out of it. You know, that's what I wish.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's deep. Do you have any final thoughts for us today? I mean, that's...
You know, I guess just to... I want to say that, you know, to tie everything together, you know, there's no way that I feel like I would be equipped with the mental bandwidth and confidence and ability to navigate the stress of my life and my industry. You know, look, Ryan, I don't have a family. I'm not married. I don't have kids. All I have is my work, you know? And what I mean by that is, you know, to like occupy that space, you know, responsibility wise.
Sure.
Okay. I have a responsibility to my recovery every day, but my business. And I just really feel that whether it's God or the universe, magic, something has happened to enable me. Maybe it's just being slapped with, you know, thrust into adversity, which I have been many times, okay, throughout my life, like a lot of others too. No one has never struggled, all right? But I've been through a lot. And I don't think that I would be getting through these challenging times without my relationship with running and what it's done for me. It enables me to not worry anymore. Because when I hit pavement for a 7-mile run, I don't care about any of that. And I know you're going to know what I mean because you're a runner. We all have our different stressors and issues and responsibilities, or, you know, marital problems or stresses with your children, or, you know, with work. I don't know how not everybody is onto this. Anybody can do it.
Right.
And this is going to sound so cliche, but if I can do it, I mean, I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, not even that long ago in the big picture. If I can do it, anybody can do it. You know, I'm really grateful for a lot, but certainly for the fitness journey, which is an ongoing thing. It's not, there's no, there's no destination. It's the experience, and I love living it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for chatting with me and hearing all that.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We'll maybe have to follow up in a year.
Yeah, for sure.
See where you're at.
Lots of things happening and shifting gears, and still a lot of unknowns, but all positive, all being fueled and propelled by that confidence.
So if people want to follow your journey, you've been posting a lot on Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, yeah.
Okay.
And there are some things in the works, like I mentioned, the Recovery Runners Club. I'm thinking of kind of, can't do too much, but hoping to bring to fruition. Really, more than anything, I would like to organize a road race.
Awesome.
So, yeah, Facebook, our on Instagram for my business, it's Sugar High Fergus Falls.
Okay.
Which you can connect. I mean, people can connect with me personally through there as well. Facebook is Sugar High Bakery and Confections. Yeah. Awesome. There's so much going on in the legal landscape that has sort of fallen to the wayside. It's more just like backup when we can now, because we're fighting much bigger issues than staying relevant with social media. And I do the best I can. So.
Sure.
But yeah, we're just trucking along. So.
Excellent. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great 4th.
Yeah, you too, Ryan.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks.